presented by Soundlibra.com. Explore more titles via the link in the description or at Soundlibra.com. Welcome to the Conversation Code, unlocking secrets to never running out of things to say.
And I'm Lisa. We're thrilled to embark on this journey with you, exploring connection through conversation.
Before we dive in, a quick note that while we're discussing communication and social skills, this content is for educational purposes and isn't a substitute for professional mental health advice.
That's an important point. This series isn't just about filling silences. It's about genuine connection, understanding, and impact in your life and career. So, Alex, why are conversations so crucial? They seem basic, yet many of us struggle.
Conversations are fundamental. Our relationships, our professional successes, they're all built on them. Imagine learning, sharing, or expressing feelings without talking. It's nearly impossible.
It's true. Even daily tasks like ordering coffee or asking directions involve interactions.
Precisely. These aren't just transactions. They're chances to connect, be seen, and understand others. Good conversations build trust, offer self-insight, and enable collaboration. They are the bedrock of human interaction.
So, it's about the quality of the exchange, not just the information itself.
Absolutely. And that leads to never running out of things to say. It's about engaging, listening, and responding to keep interactions flowing naturally and meaningfully. It's a valuable skill.
A valuable skill. How do we develop it?
This series will break down conversations into their components. Everyone can become a more effective communicator. It's a skill learned through practice and understanding techniques, much like learning a musical instrument.
That's a great analogy. What's the first step in this learning process?
Our core belief is that everyone has something interesting to share that could be a captivating speaker. It's about tapping into your experiences, curiosity, and listening skills. You don't need to be a natural extrovert.
That's very reassuring. I sometimes feel I'm not interesting enough or don't know what to say next.
That's the mindset we aim to change. This series focuses on understanding the structure of engaging conversations. It's about intentionality, presence, curiosity, and willingness to share.
For listeners feeling anxious about their skills, what's the main takeaway today?
Conversations are the vital threads of our social fabric, essential for relationships, success, and enriching our lives. The ability to have engaging conversations is a skill that can be cultivated by anyone. Never running out of things to say means mastering the art of connection.
To recap, conversations are vital for personal bonds and professional achievements, focusing on connection. And you can absolutely improve your conversational skills. It's a learnable skill.
Beautifully put, Lisa. Authenticity in engagement is key. In future episodes, we'll delve into specific frameworks and practical strategies, teaching you how to make conversations matter.
I'm looking forward to dissecting the architecture of a good conversation.
We'll explore asking better questions, telling compelling stories, and navigating potentially uncomfortable moments to keep energy flowing and be someone others are drawn to.
It all begins with recognizing the value and potential in every interaction and viewing each conversation as a chance for growth.
Precisely, because mastering conversation unlocks understanding, influence, and belonging. You become someone who truly connects.
So we're learning to live with a more engaging rhythm.
A wonderful way to phrase it. We've begun by understanding the fundamental importance of dialogue. Conversations are the lifeblood of our connections and progress. And effective communication is a skill.
And we've set the stage to show that being a captivating speaker is within everyone's reach, focusing on the depth of connection.
Indeed, as we conclude this foundational episode, remember, every interaction is a chance to build a bridge. In the next episode, we'll introduce a powerful model to help you structure and understand the flow of any conversation.
Sounds like a great plan.
Get ready to decode the framework.
We'll see you in the next episode. Next episode, Decoding the Framework, the Scatter Model.
Welcome back. Last time, we explored why conversations truly matter and how they form the bedrock of our connections. Today, we're diving into our very first practical framework for keeping those conversations flowing, a tool designed to help you never run out of things to say. We're calling it the scatter model.
Scatter. I like it. It sounds active, like you're really engaging with a conversation, not just passively letting it happen. And Alex, after our last episode, I'm definitely ready for some strategies to tackle those inevitable awkward silences.
Exactly. The scatter model is all about being proactive and intentional. It's an acronym, and each letter guides you through a stage or a technique in conversation. We'll break down each one, and by the end of this episode, you'll have a clear blueprint for initiating, maintaining, and deepening any dialogue.
Sounds like the perfect toolkit. So, where do we begin with scatter?
We start with the first S, sample. Sampling is about observing and exploring the conversational landscape before you dive in too deep. Think of it like dipping your toe in the water. You're looking for cues, for common ground, for sparks of interest. It's about gathering little bits of information that you can later use to build upon.
So, it's not just about blurting out the first thing that comes to mind?
Precisely. Sampling involves paying attention to your surroundings, to the other person's body language, to what they've already said, or even to a shared experience you both have. For example, if you're at a gathering, you might notice someone holding a specific type of drink or wearing a band t-shirt. That's a sample you can use to start a more tailored conversation.
Ah, I see. So, instead of just saying nice weather, you might comment on the unique drink they're holding.
You've got it. It's about finding those small, specific details that can lead to a more engaging opening. Once you got a few samples, the next step is C for clarify. Clarifying is all about ensuring you understand what's being communicated and showing the other person that you're listening.
This sounds like asking questions, right? But not just any questions.
Absolutely. Clarifying questions are those that prompt more detail or confirm your understanding. Instead of a closed question like, "Did you like the movie?" a clarifying question might be, "What did you think of the ending of the movie?" Or, "So if I understand correctly, you're saying that the main character's motivation was X."
That makes sense. It shows you're engaged and prevents misunderstandings. It's like a verbal check-in.
Exactly. And by clarifying, you're not only understanding better, but you're also encouraging the other person to elaborate, which naturally extends the conversation. This leads us to the next letter, for amplify. Amplifying means adding value to the conversation.
Adding value. How do we do that?
It can be done in several ways. You can share a related experience, offer a different perspective, or even inject a bit of gentle humor. If someone is talking about a challenging work project, amplifying might be sharing a similar challenge you faced and how you overcame it. It shows empathy and offers potential solutions or insights.
So, it's about building upon their contribution, making the conversation richer for both of you.
Precisely. You're not just a listener, you're a contributor, adding to the communal understanding. Now, T for transform. Transform is a really dynamic part of the model. It's about taking an idea or a statement and shifting its focus, exploring its implications, or even twisting it into something new.
Transforming ideas, that sounds a bit abstract. Can you give me an example?
Imagine someone says, "I'm really tired today." A straightforward response might be, "Oh, me too." But a transforming response could be, "That reminds me, I read an article recently about how sleep patterns are linked to productivity. What do you think makes you so tired today? Is it work or something else?" You've taken their simple statement and opened up a deeper line of inquiry.
So you're not just acknowledging it, you're using it as a springboard to explore its causes and effects. You're transforming a simple statement into a doorway to further discussion.
That's a fantastic way to put it, Lisa. You're transforming a static point into a dynamic part of the dialogue. Next up is E for extend. This is all about keeping the momentum going. When a conversation naturally slows down, extend is your tool to bring it back to life.
This is where those awkward silences come in, isn't it? How do we extend?
Extend can involve asking open-ended questions that encourage elaboration, introducing a new but related topic, or even referencing something previously discussed. Think about bringing back an earlier point. For example, if you were talking about a book earlier, you could say, speaking of characters, did you ever read anything similar? Or you could introduce a new angle. That reminds me, I saw a documentary recently about X, and it made me think of what you were saying about Y.
So, it's about subtly weaving in new threads or revisiting old ones to maintain the flow. It's not about forcing new topics, but finding natural bridges.
Exactly. It's a gentle way of prolonging the interaction without making it feel forced. And finally, we arrive at the last letter, our for respond. This is perhaps the most crucial element of any interaction. Respond means reacting thoughtfully and appropriately to what the other person has said.
This sounds like just responding. What's the special trick here?
The trick is in the thoughtfulness. A simple is a response, but it's not a good response in terms of deepening connection. A thoughtful response acknowledges what was said, shows your processing of it, and ideally, invites further interaction. It's about demonstrating genuine engagement, not just processing the sound waves. It's the culmination of all the previous steps. You sample, clarify, amplify, transform, and extend, all leading to a meaningful response.
So, scatter is actually a cycle then, isn't it? Sampling leads to clarification and amplification, which can be transformed, extended, and then followed by a thoughtful response. And that response itself becomes a new sample point for the next round.
You've nailed it, Lisa. That's the beauty of the scatter model. It's not a rigid set of instructions, but a flexible framework that guides you. You don't have to use every step perfectly every time. The goal is to be aware of these elements and to consciously or even unconsciously over time weave them into your conversations.
So, to recap for our listeners, scatter stands for sample, clarify, amplify, transform, extend, and respond. Sampling is about observing and gathering information. Clarifying ensures understanding and encourages elaboration. Amplifying adds value and insight. Transforming shifts focus and explores implications. Extending keeps the conversation flowing. And responding is about thoughtful, engaged interaction.
That's a perfect summary, Lisa. Mastering these steps can truly transform your ability to connect with people, moving beyond superficial exchanges to richer, more meaningful dialogues. It's about being present, being curious, and being willing to build those conversational bridges.
I'm already thinking about how I can apply this in my next conversation. It gives me a clear roadmap.
And that's exactly what we aimed for. Remember, like any skill, it takes practice. The more you consciously use the scatter model, the more natural it will become. Next episode, we'll explore the art of asking great questions, moving beyond the surface level to truly understand and connect with others. Welcome back. Last time we covered the scatter model's clarify and respond. Let's explore the power of the question.
We're talking about questions that go beyond the usual what's up to spark real connection and reveal depth.
Think of questions as keys. Some open tiny doors, others swing open grand ones to new rooms of understanding. Today, we'll learn to use those grand opening keys.
So, it's about moving from superficial chat to something more meaningful. How do we do that?
It starts with understanding different question types. The first is the distinction between closed-ended and open-ended questions. We use closed-ended ones often.
Like, did you have a good weekend? The answer is usually yes or no.
Exactly. They're for quick info, but rarely lead to deeper conversation. If someone says yes, where do you go? It's often a conversational dead end.
So, what's the alternative?
Open-ended questions. These build conversations. They invite elaboration, opinions, and stories. They often start with what, how, why, or tell me about.
Ah, I see. So, instead of asking, did you have a good weekend? I could ask, what was the most interesting thing you did this weekend?
That's a perfect example. That question prompts a story, an explanation, maybe even a funny anecdote. It invites the other person to share a piece of their experience.
And that's where the real connection happens, isn't it? When people feel invited to share more of themselves.
Absolutely. Open-ended questions are foundational, but we can go further with specific types. Let's talk about probing questions.
Probing questions. What do those do?
Probing questions are designed to dig a little deeper, to uncover more detail about something that's already been said. They follow up on a previous statement. For instance, if someone says, I had a really frustrating experience at the store,
A closed-ended question would be, was it a long line?
right? A probing question, though, might be, what was it about the experience that felt most frustrating? Or, can you tell me more about that frustration?
That pushes the conversation beyond the surface. It shows you're actively trying to understand.
Exactly. Another vital type is clarifying questions. These are crucial for ensuring you've understood correctly and also for showing you're engaged. They're about making sure you're on the same page.
So, if someone says something you're not quite sure about, you'd ask a clarifying question.
Yes. For example, if someone used a term you're not familiar with, you might ask, so, if I understand correctly, you mean? Rephrase their point. Or, could you explain what you mean by specific term a little more?
That's so important for avoiding misunderstandings. And it also gives the speaker a chance to rephrase or elaborate if they weren't clear themselves.
Precisely. And this brings us to speculative questions. These are a bit more advanced, but incredibly effective for sparking imagination, exploring possibilities, and encouraging creative thinking. They often start with what if?
What if? Those sound fun.
They are. Imagine you're discussing a challenge. Instead of just talking about why it's difficult, a speculative question could be, what if we approach this from a completely different angle? What might that look like? Or, if you had a magic wand to solve this, what would you do?
That shifts the perspective entirely. It moves from problem focused to possibility focused. It can unlock new ideas.
It really can. And remember our scatter model? These questions are directly linked to the clarify and respond components. Probing and clarifying questions help us truly clarify what the other person is thinking. And open-ended, speculative questions encourage rich, thoughtful responses.
So, to recap so far, we have closed-ended questions for quick info and open-ended questions for depth. Then, we have probing questions to dig deeper, clarifying questions to ensure understanding, and speculative questions to explore possibilities. That's a fantastic toolkit.
It really is. But a question is only as good as how it's delivered and to whom it's directed. This is where tailoring comes in. A question that works wonders in one context might fall flat in another.
You mean like asking a very personal speculative question to someone you've just met?
Exactly. Context is key. Consider your relationship with the person. Are they a close friend, a colleague, a stranger? What's the setting? Are you in a formal meeting, a casual coffee chat, or a bustling social event?
And what's their apparent mood or energy level?
Spot on. For someone who seems reserved or perhaps a bit tired, a gentle, open-ended question like, what was a highlight of your day, no matter how small, might be perfect. For someone you know well and who loves to brainstorm, a more direct, speculative question could be ideal.
It's about being observant and empathetic, then choosing the right question.
Absolutely. And don't forget the power of silence after you ask a question. So many of us rush to fill the void. but that silence often gives the other person space to think, to formulate a thoughtful response.
That's a great point. It can feel a little awkward at first, but it's essential for genuine connection.
It is. So, let's summarize the power of the question. We've learned to distinguish between closed and open-ended questions, recognizing that open-ended questions fuel deeper conversations. We explored probing questions to get more detail, clarifying questions to ensure understanding, and speculative questions to unlock imagination.
And we emphasize tailoring questions to the person and situation and the value of silence. It's about asking questions that invite sharing, show you're listening, and genuinely spark interest.
By mastering these techniques, you'll move beyond asking, "What's up?" to truly understanding and connecting with people. You'll become someone who facilitates meaningful exchange.
It's about becoming a conversation architect, building connections one thoughtful question at a time.
Precisely. And that lays the groundwork for everything else we'll cover. Next episode, we'll explore the art of weaving your narrative, how to tell compelling stories. Welcome back. Last time we covered the power of the question. Now, let's tackle storytelling.
Right, Alex? We've learned about connecting and asking smart questions, but conversations are about sharing experiences, and that's where stories truly shine. It's about making those connections deeper and more memorable.
Exactly, Lisa. Think about it. When someone tells you a story, you're transported. You feel what they felt, you see what they saw. It's incredibly engaging. And the good news is, everyone has stories to tell. The trick is knowing how to frame them effectively.
So, where do we start?
How do we turn a simple anecdote into something that hooks people?
The foundation of any good story, whether it's a blockbuster movie or a chat with a friend, is having a compelling structure. We're going to break it down into 4 key elements: the hook, the conflict, the resolution, and the takeaway. Let's start with that first element, the hook.
The hook. That's what grabs your attention right away, isn't it? Like the opening scene of a movie that makes you lean in.
Precisely. Your hook needs to be intriguing. It should pose a question, present a surprising situation, or hint at something significant that's about to happen. It's the invitation to listen. For example, instead of saying, "I went to the store yesterday," you could say, "You won't believe what happened to me at the grocery store yesterday." That immediately makes someone wonder, what happened?
I see. It creates curiosity. So, it's not just about stating facts, but about hinting at the emotional journey or the unusual aspect of the experience.
Yes, and it sets the stage. It tells the listener, this isn't just a mundane event. There's something worth your attention here. We're amplifying the interest in our experience.
Definitely. So, we've hooked them. What comes next?
Next is the conflict. Every engaging story has a challenge, a problem, or a struggle. It's the engine that drives the narrative forward. This doesn't have to be a life or death situation. It can be something as simple as a misunderstanding, a frustrating obstacle, or an unexpected twist.
So it's the oh moment. The part where things get a little tricky or go off track from what was expected. It's where the tension builds.
Exactly. Picture this. You're trying to bake a cake, and halfway through, you realize you're out of eggs. That's a small conflict, but it's relatable and it presents a problem that needs solving. Without conflict, stories can feel flat. They lack drama and emotional resonance.
It's like the journey between the beginning and the end. The part where the character has to overcome something.
You got it. And that naturally leads us to the third element, the resolution. This is where the conflict is addressed and a solution is found. It's how the story wraps up the problem you introduced.
So, if the conflict was running out of eggs, the resolution might be running to the store, borrowing from a neighbor, or finding an egg substitute.
Perfect example. The resolution should feel earned. It's the outcome of the struggle. It's important that the resolution doesn't feel too easy or too forced. We typically want to see a change or a shift from the problem state. This is where we start to transform the experience into something meaningful.
So, hook, conflict, resolution. We've told the story, but as a narrator, or in this case, a conversationalist, what's the final piece? What's the takeaway?
This is arguably the most crucial part for making a story impactful in a conversation. The takeaway is the lesson learned, the insight gained, or the point you want your listener to remember. It's what makes the story valuable beyond just entertainment.
Ah, so it's the so what of the story. What should I, the listener, get from this?
Precisely. The takeaway can be a piece of advice, a humorous observation, a reflection on human nature, or even just a shared feeling. For instance, going back to the cake example, the takeaway could be about the importance of always checking your pantry before you start cooking, or a funny story about having to make a mad dash to the store in your pajamas.
That makes sense. It's what gives the story meaning and relevance beyond your personal experience. It's the connection to the listener's potential experiences. It relates back to transforming your experience into shared understanding.
Absolutely. And remember, these stories don't have to be epic adventures. They can be everyday moments. Did you have a funny interaction with a barista? Witness a peculiar street performance? Overhear a fascinating snippet of conversation? These are all potential story gold mines.
So, we should be actively observing the world around us, looking for those little narrative threads?
Yes, be an active observer. Pay attention to details, to emotions, to unexpected events. And when you recall these moments, think about which of the four elements hook, conflict, resolution, takeaway are most prominent. That will help you decide how to best share it.
This is so helpful, Alex. It demystifies storytelling. It's not about being a professional writer, it's about framing our lived experiences.
Exactly. And with practice, you'll start to instinctively recognize story potential. You'll begin to unconsciously weave these narratives into your conversations, making them richer, more engaging, and more memorable. You'll be demonstrating aspects of broadening appeal and transformation naturally.
So, to recap for our listeners, we've explored the art of compelling storytelling in conversations by breaking it down into four essential elements. 1. The hook, to grab attention. 2. The conflict, to create engagement and tension. 3. The resolution, to solve the problem. And 4. The takeaway, which provides the meaning and connects with your listener.
That's a perfect summary, Lisa. By incorporating these elements, you can elevate your conversations from simple exchanges to memorable shared experiences. You're not just talking, you're sharing a journey. And that's how you build truly meaningful connections, which, as we discussed in episode 1, is the ultimate goal of great conversation.
It really brings it all together. Using stories makes the connect part of our foundation so much stronger.
It absolutely does. So, start looking for those stories around you. Practice framing them with a hook, a conflict, a resolution, and a takeaway. You'll be amazed at how much more captivating your conversations become.
Fantastic. So much to think about this week.
Indeed. Next episode, we're going to tackle something many people find challenging, taming the silence and strategies for navigating awkward moments. Welcome back. Last time, we explored the art of weaving compelling narratives into your conversations. Today, we're diving into something that catches almost everyone off guard, awkward silences.
Oh, Alex, the dreaded silence. It feels like an eternity when it happens, doesn't it? You're trying to make a connection and suddenly crickets. It's a universal conversational challenge, and I'm eager to hear your strategies for taming it.
Exactly, Lisa. Awkward silences can feel like a conversational roadblock, but they don't have to be. In fact, with the right perspective and a few practical tools, you could transform these moments from something to fear into something you can navigate with grace and even a bit of humor. Today, we'll learn to embrace, rather than fear, those pauses.
That sounds much more reassuring. So, before we get into specific tactics, what's the first step in reframing our thinking about silence?
The very first step is to understand that silence isn't always a negative. Think about it. When you're truly listening to someone, when you're deep in thought, or when you're absorbing something profound, there are often pauses. These moments allow for reflection. Instead of seeing silence as a void that needs immediate filling, try to view it as a space for processing, for breathing, or for a shared moment of contemplation.
A space for processing. I like that. It's not a failure, but an intentional pause. So, when that uncomfortable quiet descends, what's the immediate, practical thing we can do?
One of the most effective ways to manage awkward silence and prevent it from escalating is to return to the foundational elements of conversation that we've discussed. Remember the scatter model from episode 2? We talked about extend and respond. These are crucial here. When you feel a silence brewing, or after it's happened, you can use these functions.
Right, scatter. S for seek information, C for clarify, A for add information, T for transition, T for tell a story, E for extend, and R for respond. So, how to extend and respond? Help us here.
Extend is all about keeping the conversational ball rolling by asking open-ended questions or offering further thought on the last point made. If there's a lull, you can proactively extend the previous topic without forcing a totally new one. For instance, if you were talking about a recent book, instead of letting it die, you might say, "What did you find most surprising about the author's perspective?" This invites more than a yes or no answer and naturally extends the dialogue.
So, if the conversation veers towards being quiet, I can gently nudge it back by asking a question that builds on what was just said. That feels less abrupt than jumping to something completely random.
Precisely. And respond is about acknowledging what the other person has said and adding your own thoughts. When silence occurs, you can use respond to circle back to something they mentioned earlier that you found interesting or to offer your own takeaway from their previous statement. It shows you were listening and provides another natural entry point. For example, that point you made about topic really resonated with me. It makes me think about.
That's a great way to anchor the conversation to something already established, rather than feeling like you're pulling a topic out of thin air. It feels more organic. It's like, you said this, and it made me think of that.
Indeed. But what if the silence has already fully settled in and you feel the need to introduce a new topic? This is where transitioning with grace comes in. A simple, direct transition can work wonders. Instead of a sudden, jarring shift, you can use phrases like, "speaking of different things," or, "that reminds me of something else."
Those are good, gentle transitions. It signals that you're changing direction without making it feel like an interrogation or a sudden confession.
And often, the best new topic is something you've observed or experienced recently. This connects to episode 10, where we talked about being an interesting speaker. Cultivate a habit of observation. You might notice something about the environment, another person's interesting accessory, or a recent news item you found noteworthy.
So, if I'm stuck, I can look around and find a safe, neutral observation. Like, that's a beautiful painting on the wall, or I love the music they're playing here.
Perfect. These are low-stakes ways to restart the flow. They invite a simple response and can then bloom into a longer discussion. Now, what about humor? Humor can be a fantastic tool for diffusing tension when used appropriately.
Ah, yes, humor. My favorite tool. But it can be a double-edged sword, can it?
It absolutely can. The key is self-deprecating humor or gentle, observational humor that's not at anyone's expense. If you're feeling the awkwardness, you can even acknowledge it with a touch of humor. Things like, "Wow, we're really having a moment of profound silence here," or "I think my brain just froze for a second there," or "we just saying."
Chuckles, I can see how that would work. It shows you're aware of the situation and you're not taking yourself too seriously. It can break the ice instantly.
It really can. It humanizes you and makes the other person feel more comfortable because they realize they're not alone in feeling that slight discomfort. It's about finding that balance between acknowledging the situation and not dwelling on it. We want to lighten the mood, not make the awkwardness the main topic.
So, to recap so far, we've reframed silence as a potential space for reflection. We've revisited the scatter models, extend, and respond functions to keep conversations going or to recover from pauses. We've talked about smooth transitions, and now we're adding humor as a powerful tool.
Exactly, Lisa. And it's important to remember that sometimes the best strategy is simply to lean into the silence for a beat longer. Not every moment needs to be filled with chatter. Allow yourself and the other person a brief moment to simply be. This can lead to more genuine connection than a forced conversation.
That feels counterintuitive to our instinct to fill any quiet space, but I can see how it builds a different kind of trust. It shows you're comfortable with less.
It does. And when you're ready to re-engage, have a few go-to, low-risk questions or observations in your back pocket. Think about current events, pop culture, or common interests. Avoid anything too controversial or too personal unless you're already well into a deep conversation.
So it's about having a proactive strategy and a reactive strategy when that silence hits. Proactive means using extend and respond and being observant. Reactive means using those smooth transitions, a bit of humor, or even just a comfortable pause before jumping back in.
That's a perfect summary, Lisa. Taming the silence isn't about eliminating it entirely, but about understanding its purpose and having the confidence to navigate it skillfully. By reframing silence as an opportunity and equipping ourselves with these tools, we can ensure our conversations remain engaging and connected, even through those inevitable pauses.
I feel so much better about those moments now, Alex. It's not a sign of conversational failure, but a chance to reset and reconnect.
And that's the essence of mastering the conversation code. Next episode, we'll be tackling the group dynamic and navigating conversations with multiple people. Welcome back. Last time we covered taming awkward silences. Now let's tackle group dynamics.
That's right, Alex. One-on-one conversations have their own rhythm. You're focused on one person's reactions, their cues, their energy. But a group? That's a whole different ballroom dance, isn't it? There are more players, more patterns, and definitely more potential for stepping on toes.
Exactly, Lisa. And that's why understanding the group dynamic is so essential for really mastering this conversation code. It's not just about what you say, but how you fit into the larger mosaic of voices. Remember the scatter model we discussed previously? Today, we're going to lean heavily on the amplify and extend principles.
Ah, yes, amplify and extend. Amplify was about making your voice more impactful, and extend was about building on what others have said. Those seem perfectly suited for group settings where you want to contribute meaningfully without overshadowing others or simply ensure your point lands.
Precisely. So, let's break down how to navigate these group dynamics. The first hurdle is simply figuring out how to enter the conversation. It often feels like finding a gap in a fast-flowing river. You don't want to barge in, but you also don't want to be swept past unnoticed.
It's like waiting for your turn at bat, but the pitcher is throwing curveballs and the batter is hitting foul tips. How do you know when to step up?
One of the simplest ways is to listen for a natural pause. This sounds obvious, but in a group, pauses can be fleeting. Look for a slight lull after someone finishes speaking or when a subtopic seems to be wrapping up. And when you do speak, tie your comment to what was just said. This is where extend comes in.
So, rather than just launching into a new topic, you connect your thought directly to the previous speaker's point. For example, if someone was just talking about a new restaurant they tried, you could say, "That reminds me of another place I visited recently and they did X." Yes, that makes sense. It shows you were listening and integrates you into the ongoing chat.
Exactly. And this is also where amplify becomes crucial. You're not just extending, you're adding value. You might be adding a different perspective, a relevant piece of information, or a humorous observation. The key is to contribute something that elevates the discussion, not just repeats it.
So it's about being the person who adds a useful building block, not just another pebble. The scatter model really gives us a toolkit for this. It's not just about talking, it's about contributing strategically.
Absolutely. Now, what about when one or two people dominate the conversation? This is a common challenge in group settings, isn't it? You have these strong voices that seem to command all the airtime.
Oh, I've been in those conversations. You feel like you're in a room with a loudspeaker and everyone else is whispering. It can be incredibly frustrating and can shut down participation from others.
It really can. The first strategy here is to become an energy manager of sorts. This is where our skills from previous episodes, the power of questioning, become vital. Instead of trying to interject over the dominant voice with your own statement, try a gentle, inclusive question.
An inclusive question. So, instead of saying, "But I think," you might ask something that invites others in?
Precisely. You could say something like, "That's a really interesting point," dominant speaker's name. "I'm curious, has anyone else had a similar experience?" Or if the dominant voice is sharing a personal story, you might ask, "And what was the biggest lesson you took away from that?" This subtly shifts the focus and opens the door for others to share.
Ah, so you're not directly challenging the dominant speaker, but you're broadening the scope of the conversation. You're using their energy but redirecting it. It's a diplomatic way to involve more people.
Diplomacy is key. And remember those quieter members we mentioned? They often have invaluable insights, but they need a clear, low-pressure invitation. Your questions can serve as that invitation. You're essentially creating a small, safe spotlight for them to contribute.
So, you're not just trying to get your own voice heard, but you're actively working to make sure everyone in the group feels heard and valued. That's a sign of a truly skilled conversationalist, isn't it? Someone who elevates the entire group.
It absolutely is. Another tactic for managing dominant voices is to acknowledge their point, then explicitly pivot to another member. This takes practice. You might say, "I hear you, dominant speaker, and that's a valid perspective." Quieter member's name, "You were looking thoughtful earlier. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this."
That's brilliant. You're acknowledging the existing contribution, validating the dominant voice, and then smoothly transferring the conversational baton. It's like a choreographed dance move you've perfected.
Exactly. And speaking of choreography, think about how you phrase your own contributions. When you're speaking in a group, try to be concise. Long, rambling monologues are the enemy of group flow. Get to your point clearly and efficiently. This is the essence of being an interesting speaker, as we will discuss later.
So, in a group, brevity is your friend. It allows more people to participate and keeps the energy dynamic. It's like serving appetizers that everyone can grab a bite of, rather than one giant, intimidating entree.
That's a great analogy, Lisa. And it's not just about what you say, but also your nonverbal cues. Make eye contact with different people in the group as you speak. This makes everyone feel included. Don't just fixate on one person or conversely stare at the ceiling.
Yes, scanning the room, nodding, using open body language. It all signals to people that you're engaged with the group as a whole, not just delivering a monologue to the void.
And another thing, know when to let others lead. Sometimes the most powerful contribution is to be an active listener and a supportive presence. You don't always have to be adding new information. You can amplify others by asking clarifying questions, providing affirming nods, or summarizing their points to ensure everyone understands.
So, being a good group participant isn't always about speaking the most. It's about contributing to the overall health and inclusivity of the conversation. It's about being a good conversational citizen.
Precisely. To recap today's core ideas for a healthy group dynamic, focus on amplify, and extend from the scatter model to add value and connect your points. Use the power of questioning to draw out quieter members and manage dominant voices by inviting broader participation rather than direct confrontation.
And remember to be concise and use inclusive nonverbal cues like eye contact to make everyone feel involved. It's about building a collective conversation, not just taking turns speaking at each other.
Absolutely. Mastering the group dynamic is about fostering connection, ensuring everyone's voice has a chance to be heard, and weaving your contributions into a rich tapestry of shared ideas. It's a skill that will serve you incredibly well in both personal and professional settings.
It really elevates your conversational toolkit. You're not just a speaker. You become a facilitator, a connector, someone who helps the group shine.
And that, listeners, is how you truly code your conversations for success. Next episode, The Spark of Wit, Injecting Humor Effectively.
Ooh, that sounds fun. I can already feel the anticipation building.
Welcome back. Last time, we delved into the complexities of group conversations. Now, we're igniting the spark of wit by exploring how to effectively inject humor into your interactions.
Humor. It's like the secret sauce of great conversations, isn't it, Alex? It can break the ice, build rapport, and just make everything more enjoyable. But it also feels like a minefield sometimes. How do we get it right?
That's a perfect way to put it, Lisa. Humor is incredibly powerful, but it requires mindfulness. It's not just about telling jokes. It's about observation, timing, and understanding your audience. Today, we're going to break down how to use humor to amplify your conversations, building on what we discussed about engagement in episode 2, and how it can help transform interactions, much like storytelling we touched on in episode 4.
So, it's not about being a stand-up comedian, but more about being a clever observer?
Exactly. At its core, effective conversational humor often comes from lighthearted observations. Think about the little absurdities of everyday life. When you notice something slightly odd or unexpected, and you can articulate it in a funny way, people often find that very relatable and engaging. For example, have you ever been in a situation where everyone is perfectly dressed, and then one person's shoelace comes undone? A well-timed, gentle remark about Gravity's special Tuesday discount on untied laces can be a hit.
I love that. It's subtle, it's observational, and it doesn't put anyone on the spot. So, observation is key. What else?
Delivery and timing are crucial. Like a perfectly timed punchline, humor in conversation needs to land at the right moment. If you interrupt someone to make a witty remark, it rarely works. Instead, wait for a natural pause or for the topic to naturally lend itself to a humorous observation. A slight smile or a relaxed posture can also signal to the other person that you're going for lightheartedness, not sarcasm or criticism.
That makes sense. We've talked about matching conversational energy before. Humor feels like a way to ramp up that energy in a positive way.
Precisely. And that leads us to understanding your audience. What one group finds hilarious, another might find offensive or just odd. It's vital to gauge the room. Are people generally relaxed and open, or is the atmosphere more formal or serious? Self-deprecating humor is often a safe bet in many situations. Making a light joke at your own expense can actually make you more likable and approachable.
Oh, I'm a big fan of self-deprecating humor. Like, if I trip slightly, I might say, just practicing my avant-garde interpretive dance routine. It takes the awkwardness away and makes me laugh at myself.
That's a perfect example, Lisa. It shows you don't take yourself too seriously. And that's a disarming quality. It signals confidence. When you can admit a small imperfection humorously, it shows self-assurance. It's about finding that sweet spot where humor is inclusive, not exclusive.
So, if observation and self-deprecation are good starting points, what are some potential pitfalls we should watch out for?
The biggest pitfall is humor that punches down. This means jokes that target or demean a specific group or individuals based on their race, gender, beliefs, or any other defining characteristic. This kind of humor is not witty. It's unkind and exclusionary. Always ask yourself, is this joke at someone's expense, or is it a shared laugh at a situation? The latter is always better.
That's a really important distinction. So, we're aiming for the shared laugh. What about specific types of humor? Are there categories we should think about?
Absolutely. Beyond observational and self-deprecating humor, there's playful exaggeration, witty wordplay, and even gentle irony. Playful exaggeration is when you take a common situation and blow it slightly out of proportion for comedic effect. For instance, if you're describing a long queue, you might say, "It was so long I saw people knitting sweaters just to pass the time."
I've used that kind of exaggeration before. It adds color without being unbelievable.
And witty wordplay, like puns, can be divisive, but when they land well, they can be quite delightful. The key is not to force them. They should feel natural and inspired by the conversation. Gentle irony is also effective, where you say something that's the opposite of what you mean, but it's clear from the context and your tone that you're being ironic. For example, if it's pouring rain and someone says, "Lovely weather for a picnic, isn't it?"
Right? It's the context that tells you they don't actually think it's lovely picnic weather. It's all about that shared understanding.
Yes, it's about creating a shared understanding and a positive emotional connection. Another aspect to consider is the difference between being funny and being a comedian. In conversation, humor is often more spontaneous, more integrated into the flow. It's about adding a touch of levity, not delivering a set.
So, we don't need to have a joke ready for every situation. We just need to be open to opportunities for lightheartedness.
Exactly. And remember that not every attempt at humor will land. That's perfectly okay. If a joke falls flat, don't dwell on it. Just move on. You can even make a light, self-aware comment like, "Well, that one might need some more seasoning," and then smoothly transition back to the topic. It shows you can handle a slight misstep gracefully.
That's a great tip. Turning a potential awkward moment into another lighthearted observation. It brings us back to that idea of resilience in conversation.
Precisely. Humor can significantly amplify connection, making people feel more at ease and more inclined to engage. When people laugh together, it creates a bond, a shared positive experience. It's a powerful tool for building rapport and making conversations more memorable. Think back to episode 2, where we discussed engagement. Humor is a direct route to increasing engagement.
And it can definitely transform a potentially dry or tense conversation into something more dynamic and enjoyable. It changes the whole atmosphere.
Absolutely. It helps to humanize us, reminding us not to take everything too seriously. So, to recap, when injecting humor effectively, first, cultivate observational skills. Look for the little ironies and quirks in everyday life. Second, master timing and delivery. Wait for natural pauses and use your nonverbal cues to signal lightheartedness. Third, know your audience. Tailor your humor to the context and the people you're with. Self-deprecation is often a safe and effective choice. And finally, always aim for inclusive humor that creates shared laughter rather than humor that targets or belittles.
Observation, timing, audience awareness, and inclusive intent. Those are great, actionable takeaways for using humor to make our conversations shine.
They are. Mastering humor is a journey, but by focusing on these principles, you can significantly enhance your ability to connect with others and make your conversations more engaging, enjoyable, and memorable. Next episode, we'll shift gears to navigate the often challenging waters of sensitive subjects. Welcome back to the Conversation Code. Last time, we explored the spark of wit and how humor can lighten the mood. Today, we're tackling a topic that many find challenging, sensitive subjects.
That's right, Alex. Not every conversation is about sharing funny anecdotes or lighthearted observations. Sometimes we need to discuss things that are serious, emotionally charged, or potentially divisive. Approaching these sensitive subjects can feel like walking a tightrope.
Exactly, Lisa. And the stakes are high. A poorly handled, difficult conversation can damage relationships, create misunderstandings, or even lead to conflict. But approached with the right tools, these conversations can actually strengthen bonds and lead to resolution. Today, we're giving you a roadmap for navigating these important discussions with empathy, respect, and yes, even assertiveness.
So, where do we begin? It feels overwhelming just thinking about it.
Let's start with a fundamental principle, one we've touched on before: active listening. When the topic is sensitive, our natural instinct might be to brace ourselves, formulate our defense, or interrupt. But active listening is more crucial than ever here. It's about truly hearing what the other person is saying, both their words and their underlying emotions.
So, it's not just waiting for our turn to speak, but making sure we understand their perspective first.
Precisely. This ties back to the clarify step in our scatter model. When someone brings up a sensitive topic, or when you need to, ask clarifying questions. Instead of assuming you know what they mean or feel, ask. For instance, if a friend seems upset about something you did, you might say, "It sounds like you're feeling hurt by what happened. Can you tell me more about that?"
That's so much better than, "What's your problem?"
Oh, absolutely. The goal is to invite them to share more, not to put them on the defensive. When they do share, listen without interrupting. Pay attention to their tone of voice, their body language if you're in person. Are they angry, sad, fearful, frustrated? Acknowledging these emotions shows empathy. You can say things like, "I can see this is really upsetting for you," or "It sounds like that was a frustrating experience."
And this is where emotional intelligence really comes into play, right? Understanding and managing our own emotions and recognizing and responding to the emotions of others.
Spot on. When emotions are high, it's easy to get swept away. Take a breath. If you feel yourself getting defensive or angry, it's okay to ask for a moment. "This is important, and I want to make sure I'm understanding you fully. Can we take a short break and revisit this in 5 minutes?" That pause can prevent a lot of damage.
That's a great practical tip. So, we're listening, clarifying, acknowledging emotions. What about expressing our own perspective or needs when the subject is sensitive? That feels like the next hurdle.
This is where the respond phase of scatter becomes vital, and specifically, how we formulate our response. We want to be assertive, not aggressive. Assertiveness means stating your needs and feelings clearly and respectfully, without attacking the other person.
Assertive versus aggressive. Can you give us a simple way to remember the difference?
Think of it like this: aggression is like throwing a rock at someone. Assertiveness is like calmly offering them a tool to build something together. When expressing your own viewpoint, use I statements. Instead of saying, "You always make me feel ignored," which sounds accusatory, try, "I feel ignored when we discuss this topic because I don't feel like my input is being considered."
I feel ignored. That shifts the focus from blame to your personal experience, making it harder for the other person to dismiss.
Exactly. And it opens the door for dialogue. It's an invitation to understand your perspective. Remember the empathetic questioning from episode 3? We can apply that here too. After stating your feeling, you can follow up with a question that encourages their input. For example, "I feel unheard when we talk about this, and I'd really like to find a way for us to both feel understood. What are your thoughts on how we can achieve that?"
So we're stating our experience and then asking for their collaborative input. That's a powerful combination.
It is. Another key element in navigating sensitive subjects is managing tension. When tension rises, our communication breakdown is more likely. This is where de-escalation techniques come in. Sometimes, simply validating the difficulty of the conversation can help. I know this is a tough topic to talk about, and I appreciate you being willing to discuss it with me.
Acknowledging the shared challenge can create a sense of partnership.
Yes, it can. And if the conversation starts heading towards an unproductive argument, sometimes you need to gently steer it back. You might say, I want to make sure we're addressing the core issue here. Let's pause on that specific point and perhaps come back to it. But for now, can we focus on X?
So, we're not avoiding the difficult parts, but perhaps tackling them in a more structured or sequential way if they become overwhelming.
Precisely. It's about problem solving, not just arguing. And throughout this, remember the goal is often to find common ground, even if it's just common ground in acknowledging the difficulty or agreeing to disagree respectfully. We're not always going to see eye to eye on sensitive topics, and that's okay. The success of the conversation isn't always about reaching a perfect agreement, but about maintaining the relationship and understanding each other better.
So, to recap what we've covered today for our listeners, when approaching sensitive subjects, always start with active listening. Truly hear and try to understand the other person's perspective and emotions. Use clarifying questions to ensure you're on the same page.
Then, when expressing your own views, use I statements to communicate assertively, not aggressively. Acknowledge emotions with empathy and manage rising tension by validating the difficulty of the conversation.
And remember the option to take a short break if emotions get too high. The ultimate goal is to foster understanding and respect, and sometimes to simply agree to disagree constructively. These conversations are challenging, but they are essential for strong relationships.
They truly are. Practicing these skills will make you a more confident and capable communicator, even when the topics get tough.
It feels like we've built a really solid foundation in our first 8 episodes. We've gone from the basics of why connection matters to the scatter model, asking great questions, telling stories, handling awkward silences, group dynamics, humor, and now, navigating these sensitive topics.
It's been a journey, and we're not done yet. Next episode, we'll delve into the rhythmic exchange, matching conversational energy.
Looking forward to it.
Welcome back. Last time, we explored how to navigate sensitive subjects. Now, let's tackle the rhythmic exchange.
That sounds intriguing, Alex. When I hear rhythmic exchange, I think of a dance where partners move in sync. Is that what you mean for conversations?
Exactly. It's about matching your conversational partner's energy level, not just their words. If someone is speaking fast and with high energy, and you respond slowly and in a monotone, the connection can feel off.
And the reverse is true too. If someone is calm, a sudden burst of high energy from you might be jarring. It's about finding that comfortable middle ground.
Precisely. The goal is to match their pace, their volume, and their tone to create harmony. This helps us feel on the same wavelength. It's a key part of the respond function in our scatter model. We need to adapt to the energy the other person is bringing.
That's a brilliant connection, Alex. Responding effectively means engaging in a way that acknowledges and builds on what's shared. Matching energy shows we're actively participating, not just waiting to speak.
So, how do we do this in practice? The first step is observation. We need to be aware of the cues our partner is giving us. How are they speaking? Are they engaged or perhaps looking away?
So it's active listening, but also sensing their vocal and physical energy.
Yes. Pay attention to their pace. Are they speaking quickly, full of enthusiasm, or slower and more deliberately? Listen to their volume. Are they loud or soft and more intimate? And their tone, is it upbeat or serious?
Okay, I've observed these cues. Should I just copy them exactly? That might feel unnatural.
You're right. Exact mirroring can be awkward. The idea is to adapt, not copy. If they're fast and energetic, You can increase your pace and energy slightly, but perhaps not to their extreme. Aim to match the level.
So if they're a 10 on the energy scale, I might aim for an 8 or a 9.
That's a perfect analogy. You're seeking resonance, not exact replication. Think of it like tuning musical instruments. You want harmony, not just the same note. Slight differences create a pleasing sound.
How can we practically adjust our own delivery?
For pace, you can consciously speed up or slow down your speech. For volume, subtly raise or lower your voice. And for tone, adjust your inflection. If someone is expressing enthusiasm, let some warmth enter your voice. If they're sharing something serious, adopt a more subdued, empathetic tone.
Does this include our nonverbal actions too, like nodding or leaning in?
Absolutely. Nonverbal cues are crucial. If your partner is animated, mirroring some of their gestures can enhance connection. If they're more reserved, dial back your own physical energy to avoid overwhelming them.
This sounds like it takes conscious effort when starting out.
It does, but like any skill, it becomes more intuitive with practice. The rewards are substantial. Matching someone's energy builds rapport very quickly, fosters understanding, and makes them feel heard.
It makes the conversation flow smoothly, like that dance we talked about. It feels more natural, less like an effort.
Exactly. It creates a comfortable space for everyone to express themselves. So, to recap, first, observe your partner's pace, volume, and tone. Second, subtly adapt your own speech speed, volume, and inflection. And third, synchronize nonverbal cues for a harmonious exchange.
So we're not pretending to be someone else, but refining our communication to better connect with the person speaking. It's about being present and responsive.
That's a fantastic summary, Lisa. It's about creating a sense of us in the conversation, moving together. This directly supports the respond function of the scatter model by ensuring our engagement is attuned and makes the dialogue feel natural.
It's a subtle but powerful skill. I'm looking forward to learning how observation and curiosity can make us more interesting speakers next time.
Great. Next episode, being the interesting speaker, the power of observation and curiosity. Welcome back. Last time we covered matching conversational energy. Now let's tackle being an interesting speaker.
That's right, Alex. We learned how mirroring someone's pace and excitement can create a powerful connection. And now we're diving into what truly makes someone an interesting speaker. It's not about being a walking encyclopedia, is it?
Absolutely not. That's a common misconception. People often think they need to have read every book, seen every movie, and visited every corner of the globe to be engaging. But the real secret lies in two powerful forces: observation and curiosity.
Observation and curiosity. So it's about paying attention and wanting to know more?
Exactly. Think about it this way. Every single person you meet, every place you go, every event you witness is a potential source of fascinating conversation. But you have to be looking for it. You have to be observant. This means more than just seeing. It means noticing the small details, the nuances, the things that might escape a casual glance.
So instead of just walking down the street, I should be noticing the architecture, the way people are dressed, the interactions happening around me?
Precisely. You're training your inner detective. You're looking for the prompts that create stories, that reveal character, that spark questions. For instance, you might notice someone wearing a very unique hat. Most people might just register hat, but an observant person might wonder, where did they get that hat? What's the story behind it? Does it represent something? That's the starting point for an interesting conversation.
That makes sense. It's about finding the extraordinary in the ordinary. And curiosity is the engine that drives you to explore those observations, right?
You've got it. Curiosity is the fuel. Once you've observed something intriguing, curiosity compels you to dig deeper. It's that childlike wonder, asking why and how and what if without any judgment. We are genuinely curious. You naturally ask better questions, and those better questions lead to richer answers. Remember when we discussed the power of the question? This is where that skill really shines.
Right.
Because if you're only asking surface level questions, you'll only get surface level answers. But if you're genuinely curious about something you've observed, your questions will naturally go deeper, leading to more substance.
And this observation and curiosity aren't just for interacting with others. They are also about cultivating your own internal world, your own unique perspective. When you're observant, you start to make connections between things that others might not. You notice patterns. You see how different ideas or events relate to each other.
So, it's about developing a richer inner landscape that you can then draw upon when speaking. It's not just about recording facts, but about processing them and understanding them.
Exactly. This is where we start to link back to the art of compelling storytelling. The more you observe and are curious about, the more material you have to weave into your stories. It's about experiencing the world more fully and then being able to articulate that experience. For example, if you observe the intricate process of a barista making coffee and you're curious about the different beans and brewing methods, you can then share that experience in a way that's far more engaging than simply saying, I had coffee.
It's like you're building a personal library of interesting observations and the questions that arose from them. And this library grows the more you engage with the world.
That's a great analogy, Lisa. A personal library of experiences and insights. And here's a crucial point. You don't need to be an expert in everything. In fact, being a perpetual learner, someone who is always curious about new things, is often more interesting than someone who claims to know it all. True expertise can sometimes even create a barrier.
Oh, that's important. Because if someone knows things in a way that's inaccessible to others, it can shut down conversation.
Yes, but a curious person, even about a subject they know little about, is very relatable. They approach it with a sense of wonder, and that invites others to share their knowledge or their own experiences. They say, I'm fascinated by this. Can you tell me more? This creates a collaborative sharing of information, which is far more engaging.
So, how can we actively cultivate this observation and curiosity? It feels like something that can fade if we're not intentional.
It absolutely can, and that's why we need to be intentional. One of the simplest ways is to deliberately practice active listening, not just to words, but to the subtext, the tone, the environment. When someone is speaking, what are they really saying? What are they not saying? What does their environment tell you about them?
I recall in the Art of Connection episode, we talked about the fundamental importance of connection. This feels like a direct pathway to deeper connection, understanding the nuances of what someone is conveying.
Precisely. And then, challenge yourself to learn one new thing every day. It doesn't have to be monumental. Read an article about a topic you know nothing about. Watch a documentary series. Ask a colleague about their hobby. The key is to step outside your comfort zone of knowledge and embrace the unknown with a curious mind.
So, making it a habit, a daily practice, like learning a new word or a new fact, or even just observing a new detail on your commute.
Exactly. And another technique is to embrace what we'll call narrative prompts. Train yourself to see the potential stories everywhere. A discarded item on the street, a stray animal, an unusual cloud formation. These are all potential starting points for a story or an interesting observation. Think of it as a game.
I love that. Turning everyday life into a treasure hunt for interesting snippets. And then, when you're in a conversation, you can weave these observations and the stories that sparked from them into what you're saying, not just as random facts, but as relevant insights or illustrations.
Right? It's not about forcing it. It's about letting your genuine interest and observations flow naturally into the conversation. If you're talking about a challenge at work, an observation about how a plant grows slowly and steadily might offer a metaphorical insight that resonates more than a generic platitude.
So, Being an interesting speaker isn't about having an answer for everything, but about being present, observant, and genuinely curious about the world and the people in it. It's about sharing your unique perspective that's been shaped by this active engagement.
That sums it up perfectly, Lisa. It's about cultivating an internal richness that naturally makes you more engaging and enjoyable to talk to. It's about being a lifelong student of life itself.
And this connects back so beautifully to the foundational idea of connection and the art of storytelling. It's all about deepening our understanding and our ability to share that understanding in a way that captivates others.
Indeed. And as we move towards the end of our series, remember that these skills, observation and curiosity, are the bedrock upon which all other conversational techniques are built. They are the persistent spark that keeps you engaged and makes you someone others want to listen to.
So, to recap, cultivate your power of observation by noticing details, train your curiosity by asking questions and embracing learning, and let these qualities naturally inform your storytelling and your interactions.
That's the heart of it. Next episode, we'll be exploring advanced storytelling techniques and how to build a personal brand through your conversations. Welcome back. Last time we covered storytelling basics. Today, we elevate those skills to advanced storytelling, weaving thematic threads and building your personal brand.
I'm excited, Alex. Last time, we covered crafting engaging stories. How do we go from basic stories to thematic threads?
Think of thematic threads as recurring ideas that weave through your stories and conversations, like a consistent melody. They can represent your values, resilience, curiosity, or learning. Consistently sharing stories with these themes creates a cohesive narrative about you.
So, if I choose adventure as a theme, I tell stories about trying new foods, exploring new places, or even trying a new exercise class. All these stories highlight my adventurous spirit.
Exactly. When you do this intentionally, you're not just sharing an anecdote, you're building your personal brand. Your brand is how others perceive you, including your values and what you stand for. Consistent themes communicate who you are naturally.
That makes sense. If I always share stories about overcoming challenges and learning, people will see me as resilient and a lifelong learner, even if I don't say it outright.
Precisely. This ties into our scatter model from episode 2, particularly amplifying, transform, and amplify. Sharing a story about overcoming a challenge demonstrates transformation and amplifies the growth or lesson learned.
I recall scatter. How do we identify our personal thematic threads? It can feel a bit vague.
Start by reflecting on your history. What stories do you often tell? What challenges taught you the most? What are your core values and passions? Once you pinpoint recurring themes, look for opportunities to weave them into conversations.
So, I should be intentional about the stories I share. If someone asks about a mistake, instead of just saying, I messed up, I could tell the story of the mistake and then focus on what I learned and applied.
That's a perfect example. You acknowledge the mistake, but frame it through your learning theme, showcasing personal growth and reinforcing your brand as someone who learns from experience.
This isn't about being inauthentic, though, right? It's about highlighting the parts of ourselves we want to share.
Absolutely not. It's conscious self-expression. You have a library of experiences. This is about selecting stories that best represent you to communicate those core elements effectively.
We identify themes and seek opportunities to share related stories. How do we avoid sounding repetitive or forced?
The key is variety in your anecdotes. If your theme is curiosity, tell a story about asking a stranger a question or exploring a new hobby. The theme remains consistent, but the stories are fresh, like an orchestra playing a recurring melody with different instruments.
That's a great analogy. So, curiosity can be expressed through a story about travel, a new book, or a conversation.
Exactly. This creates a consistent narrative. People begin to see you as that curious, resilient, or passionate person. This consistency builds trust and strengthens connections, forming a strong personal brand.
It's about aligning our outward communication with our inner values. And this applies even when discussing topics unrelated to ourselves, right?
Indeed, discussing a news article, you can focus on the aspect related to your theme, like innovation or community effort. This subtly reinforces your focus without changing the conversation subject. It's about framing.
So, episode 4 gave us storytelling tools, and this episode teaches us to use those stories to profoundly communicate who we are. It's about weaving our personal narrative into daily interactions.
Precisely. Your conversations are opportunities to build relationships, share your perspective, and leave a lasting impression. Consciously weaving thematic threads makes those impressions meaningful and consistent, strengthening your personal brand.
To recap, identify your core themes or values. Find stories that exemplify these themes. Share stories highlighting these motifs to enrich communication and subtly build your personal brand. It's about being intentional with our personal narratives.
A perfect summary, Lisa, as we near the end of our series. Remember, these advanced storytelling techniques require practice, but the rewards in connection and impact are immense.
This has been so enlightening, Alex. I'm already thinking about my themes.
Fantastic. Next time, we'll explore the feedback loop and how you can continuously improve your conversational skills. Next episode, the feedback loop, continuous improvement in conversation. Welcome back to the Conversation Code. This episode is all about becoming a better conversationalist.
That's right, Alex. We've covered so much, from the scatter model to storytelling, humor, and navigating tricky topics. But how do we actually measure our progress and ensure we're truly improving? It all comes down to the feedback loop.
Exactly, Lisa. Think of it like learning any skill, whether it's playing an instrument or mastering a sport. You can practice all you want, but without someone giving you feedback or perhaps reviewing your own performance, it's much harder to spot subtle mistakes and refine your technique. In conversation, this feedback loop is absolutely crucial.
So, for our listeners, this means actively seeking out ways to understand how we're coming across and also how to offer that same insight to others, right? It's about continuous improvement.
Precisely. Let's start with seeking feedback. This can feel a little vulnerable, can it? You're asking someone to comment on something so personal. But if you approach it correctly, it's incredibly valuable. The key is to make it easy and safe for others to give you honest, constructive criticism.
How can we do that?
I imagine a lot of people might just say you're fine to avoid making things awkward.
That's a common reaction. So, instead of general, how did I do? Try to ask more specific questions. For example, after a conversation or presentation, you could ask a trusted friend or colleague, when I was explaining X, did it come across clearly? Was there anything I could have done to make it more understandable?
So you're targeting a specific aspect of the conversation rather than asking for a general health check. That makes sense. It gives them something concrete to respond to.
Exactly. You can also frame it in terms of what you're working on. I'm really trying to improve my listening skills, which we talked about earlier. During our chat, did you feel I was truly listening, or were there times you felt interrupted or unheard? This shows you're self-aware and genuinely want to improve.
And I assume it's important to preface these requests with something like, I'd really appreciate your honest feedback. I'm trying to get better at. That sets the stage and signals that you're open to improvement.
Definitely. And when you receive that feedback, listen actively. Don't get defensive. Even if it stings a little, remember the goal, to grow. Acknowledge their input. You can say something like, thank you for pointing that out. I hadn't realized I was doing that, or that's a really helpful observation. I'll keep that in mind.
So, seeking feedback is about being specific, framing it positively, and being receptive to what you hear. What about the other side of the coin, giving feedback? This feels just as, if not more, important for a healthy conversational ecosystem.
Absolutely. And it's a skill that needs practice. We want to offer feedback that helps, not hinders. Giving feedback falls into the category of navigating sensitive subjects. The goal is to foster growth, not to criticize.
How do we strike that balance?
The best approach is often to start with the positive. Acknowledge what the person did well. If they told a great story, you could say, "That was a really engaging story. You painted such a vivid picture, and I loved how you connected it back to the main point."
So, start with the good, what we learned about building rapport and positive reinforcement.
Precisely. Then, gently introduce the area for improvement. Instead of saying, "You were rambling," try something like, "I found the beginning of your explanation fascinating." If I were to offer a small suggestion for the future, perhaps a slightly more concise introduction could help immediately grab everyone's attention.
That's a great phrasing. It's collaborative and focuses on a future outcome rather than a past mistake. It suggests how it could be more effective.
Exactly. And notice it's phrased as a suggestion, not a directive. Perhaps, maybe, you might consider it empowers the other person to integrate the feedback in their own way. Another key is to be specific and focus on behavior, not personality. Instead of, "You're not a good listener," say, "There were a couple of times during our discussion where I felt I was being interrupted before I finished my thought."
That brings us back to the parts of our model that involve responding and clarifying. If you feel unheard, that's a cue to clarify or re-engage. And when giving feedback, pointing out the moments where that didn't happen so smoothly is so much more actionable.
You've got it, Lisa. And remember the rhythmic exchange? When giving feedback, try to match the energy and tone of the person you're speaking with. If they're relaxed and approachable, the feedback session can be more informal. If they're more reserved, a more formal, one-on-one setting might be best.
So, to recap the feedback loop, for ourselves, we need to actively solicit specific, constructive feedback and be open to receiving it. And when giving feedback to others, we should start with positives, be specific about behaviors, offer suggestions gently, and be mindful of the context.
You've summarized it perfectly. This isn't just about being a good conversationalist in the moment. It's about adopting a mindset of lifelong learning. Every conversation is an opportunity to learn, practice, and refine. And by consciously engaging in this feedback loop, you accelerate that learning curve dramatically.
It's like having a personal coach for your conversations, helping you identify blind spots and find new strategies. It reinforces all the techniques we've discussed, paying attention to nonverbal cues, asking insightful questions, telling compelling stories, and truly connecting with people.
And the more you practice both seeking and giving feedback, the more comfortable and natural it becomes. It stops feeling like a chore and starts feeling like a natural part of building stronger relationships and having more impactful conversations. It's a vital step in mastering the art of connection.
It truly is. We've come to the end of our penultimate episode, and it feels like we're bringing all the threads together. The ability to learn and adapt is the engine that drives all the other skills we've discussed.
It absolutely is. So, for our listeners, this is your call to action. Start looking for opportunities to give and receive feedback this week. Pay attention to how conversations flow, where there might be misunderstandings, and where there's great connection.
And next time, we'll be wrapping up the entire series. We'll be looking at how to become a true master of the conversation code, integrating everything we've learned into your daily life for a lifetime of better connections.
You won't want to miss it. Until then, keep practicing, keep listening, and keep growing. Next episode, the Conversation Code Mastery, your lifelong practice. Welcome to the final episode of the Conversation Code Mastery.
We've journeyed from understanding connection to mastering your lifelong practice.
In this final episode, we'll recap the core principles and how to integrate them daily. It's about turning conscious effort into unconscious competence.
We began by grasping why conversations matter. They are the bedrock of human connection.
Then, we introduced the scatter model: situation, core, action, time, emotion, and result. This framework helps us understand and structure any dialogue, personal or informational.
We highlighted the power of asking insightful, open-ended questions that invite deeper sharing and understanding beyond surface-level greetings.
We learned that compelling storytelling is key to connecting on an emotional level, making our experiences engaging and memorable.
We were given strategies to tame awkward silences, showing that pauses can be spaces for reflection or graceful pivots in conversation.
Then, we expanded our view to the group dynamic, teaching us how to navigate conversations with multiple people, ensuring everyone feels included and heard.
We also delved into injecting humor effectively, not to be a comedian, but to build rapport and make interactions more enjoyable.
We tackled the delicate art of navigating sensitive subjects, emphasizing empathy, respect, and clarity to address difficult topics constructively.
The rhythmic exchange underscored the importance of matching conversational energy, adapting your style to the mood and pace.
We became the interesting speaker by cultivating observation and curiosity, realizing that a curious mind is a wellspring of conversation.
We elevated our storytelling, showing how thematic threads and personal branding can make our narratives deeply compelling and authentically ours.
And finally, we focused on the feedback loop, teaching us how to continuously improve our conversational skills through seeking and providing constructive feedback.
So, we've covered the fundamental why of connection, provided tools like the scatter model, and learned to ask better questions, tell engaging stories, and handle group dynamics. We've explored humor, sensitive topics, energy matching, the power of curiosity, personal branding through narrative, and continuous improvement.
That's a thorough recap, Lisa. Over these 13 episodes, we've built a comprehensive guide to conversational mastery. But true mastery comes from consistent, deliberate practice, weaving these skills into the fabric of your daily life.
So, how do we make this a lifelong practice after this series concludes?
The key is integration. Don't see these as separate tools, but as threads woven into your interactions. Look for small opportunities daily. Ask one more probing question, share a brief anecdote, or consciously practice active listening.
It's about making it second nature, like riding a bike, moving from conscious effort to unconscious competence.
Exactly. And remember, growth, not perfection, is the goal. Embrace imperfect conversations as learning moments. Reflect on what worked and what could be improved using that feedback loop we discussed.
Curiosity remains your greatest asset. Stay curious about people, ideas, and the world. This fuels genuine conversation and ensures you'll always have something interesting to share.
Leverage that curiosity to ask questions, seek new experiences, and learn constantly. Your stories will deepen, your insights will grow, and your connections will strengthen. This is about authentic engagement, not memorization.
It's about becoming the person who connects, understands, and is understood, leaving a positive, lasting impression by making others feel truly seen.
Mastering these tools empowers you to build stronger relationships, achieve your goals, and navigate life with more confidence. You'll discover you truly never run out of things to say by being present and engaged.
This marks the end of our series, but the beginning of your dedicated practice. Take these lessons, apply them, experiment, and enjoy the journey of becoming a more connected and confident communicator.
Thanks for listening to the series.